Dutch historians sometimes refer to the 17th century as the Dutch Golden Age while discussing its history. The phrase refers to a time of extraordinary riches in the Dutch Republic when places like Amsterdam and Delft saw flourishing intellectual life and produced works of art by artists like Rembrandt van Vermeer and Johannes Vermeer. But a dark truth is hiding by this glittering statement. Many of the wealthiest citizens of the Republic acquired their wealth by enslaving, exploiting, and selling Africans. The Dutch sought to bury this reality and continue to deny it. They want people to forget that they ever existed. This video will cover the horrible truth the Netherlands tried to cover up and expose all the filthy secrets and brutality of Dutch slavery which was once wiped out. African civilizations tore families apart and treated human life like cargo to be bought and sold despite the country's enormous efforts to conceal its terrible past. Did you know that slavery played a crucial part in the Dutch colonial empire? People were transported from faraway regions and their labor was used by colonies abroad. The history of the Dutch Atlantic slave trade and slavery in the Dutch Americas has been thoroughly explored in several academic publications. It has become a topic of national public discussion. Thanks to the social and political activities of descendants of slaves from the Caribbean, most early modern Europeans, including the Dutch, stopped believing that it was ethically permissible to enslave other Europeans. Only those of African or Asian heritage befit slave positions. Fortunately, history cannot be kept secret long, and exposure to the Dutch involvement in slavery has led to many changes. On the 150th anniversary of the abolition of slavery in the Netherlands, the Council of Churches was the first to speak out and offer their condolences. Dutch King Willem-Alexander made an official apology for the Netherlands' historical involvement in slavery and the consequences it continues to have today in July 2023. He said in his address that more than 600,000 people were carried on Dutch ships. 75,000 people made the trek from Africa to the other side of the Atlantic without surviving. The country's Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, issued a similar apology, admitting that the Dutch state bear participated in the Atlantic slave trade and profited from it. Along with being the major players in the transatlantic slave trade, it is not shocking to know that the Dutch were the cruelest slave owners. They were the harshest slave owners from 1624 through 1663. Do you think this is it? Hold up your chair. There's something more that can chill your spine. Over a simmering fire, mutinous slaves are being burned alive. The brutality of the Dutch also contributed to the conditions that led to the Berbish slave uprising. In 1763, the astounding slave insurrection took place at Berbice. West African slaves sent to Berbice after surviving the horrors of capture and the transatlantic crossing was forced to work in the hot heat for 10 hours 6 days per week, with perhaps one day off at Christmas. In 1762, the sickness was out of control, while whipping and torture, including of children, were widespread. After questioning hundreds of the remaining slaves, it was unbelievable that the Dutch left records that captured the voices of slaves from more than 2.5 centuries earlier. A total of 124 persons were executed. Some of them had their bones crushed on a rack with an iron rod before passing away from a merciful heart attack or a ruthless knock to the head. Others were set ablaze using a standard fire that would burn for an hour or a small fire that would leave the victim smoldering for 4 hours. Some people had to even endure having their flesh torn with hot pincers. Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, slavery is taboo in the Netherlands, a nation that benefited greatly. Like most Europeans, the Dutch enjoy only those aspects of history that celebrate themselves as a result. Many Dutch people learn nothing about the widespread crime that significantly increased their wealth. To stay updated, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because there is another eye-opening film coming your way soon.